Hello, Contrarians, listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are with the latest Contrarians warm up. We continue through our summer event, Bogdanofilms and PJ parties. This is the second Bogdanofilm. This is Nickelodeon, a very, very different movie from the Last Picture Show. Not just as far as the type of movie it is, but also as far as its critical reception. This is a disaster. From the man that brought you targets and Last Picture Show, he comes at, what is it, 17%, Alex?
I think it's just 7%.
Fuck, 7%. P-Bog,
Yep.
what happened? Well, we discussed what happened on the episode, which you can check out.
To be fair, we discussed the theories of what happened in the episode.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was there. No, none of us, that is. So we can speculate based on what the internet says and the movie we watched. And we will be filling in some of the gaps in between Last Picture Show and this movie, Nickelodeon. So, our knowledge of what happened with P-Bog's career, it will increase as we go on this journey. So will yours if you're listening. So, Nickelodeon.
So far, I'm just starting to pick up on the fact I think he likes blonde girls.
Yes. He likes blonde girls and he likes suitcase humor.
Mm-hmm.
Having just watched What's Up, Doc, which we'll be talking about on our Patreon feed,
very suitcase heavy movie.
Yeah. He likes. I think he finds suitcases funny, so that's fine. PJ Hogan finds weddings funny. It's everybody has a thing. But anyway, Nickelodeon, 7%, super rotten. So we sing its praises on the main feed on the first part of the episode. Then we tell you how we feel here. I'm going to do some quotes, some trivia at the Josh Gad Minute. For quotes, because there wasn't a whole lot to pick from on the Rotten Tomatoes page, we're going to go back to the tried and true Letterboxd. Got some rotten reviews from Letterboxd, who, as we've said before, every time we go to Letterboxd quotes, they're not as professional as the ones on Rotten Tomatoes. A little more colorful, but, for the sake of entertainment, I think they work. So, Alex, let's get into it. We're going to start with in-depth review, who watched Nickelodeon November 6, 2023, and gave it half a star. Says, no SpongeBob, no Fairly Odd Parents, no Ninja Turtles, no Avatar, no Danny Phantom, no Hey Arnold, no Jimmy Neutron, not even the Rugrats. It was just a bunch of live-action men in the early 1900s doing silent movie stuff. No cartoons at all. I don't care much for Nickelodeon's early days. The characters getting slimed would have helped, but not much.
Curious when that was going to come. We talked about Nickelodeon a little bit in the episode, but I was curious when the slime reference was going to pop up in at least one of the reviews that you pulled.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's a longer version of a joke we make in the episode, which I guess it's a joke everybody would make, especially if you, like me, and I guess like Alex before we watched the movie, like if you didn't really know the definition of Nickelodeon, and it meant something else before it meant the cable channel that brought you SpongeBob and all those other shows.
It brought you a lot before it brought you SpongeBob. You had like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Figure It Out. I think I name dropped Figure It Out in the episode, but
Clarissa,
Pete, The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Clarissa Explains It All. Yeah, there was Teen Nick. There was all that. There was Keenan and Kel. There was a whole lot before SpongeBob. I think commercially though, SpongeBob has to be the most successful Nickelodeon show ever.
That was going to be my question. Would you say that that's like Disney has Mickey Mouse? Marvel has Spider-Man. There's always like one iconic figure. So at this point, Nickelodeon's would be SpongeBob.
Yeah, there was different mascots of Nickelodeon through the years, I should say. There was Stickly, who was like a popsicle stick that had like a face on it, and there was Face, because I remember like when Nickelodeon, there was a while when it was early in the morning, it would be more geared towards like toddlers. And then, Friday night all that was geared basically like, and for those listening, I'm not trying to mansplain all that. It's just my co-host here did not really grow up with Nickelodeon in the same way I did and people of my generation did. So all that was really, and some of the shows they would have in the evening of the weekends, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, were geared towards like the preteens to early teens. And all that was really from the jump was pushed like a Saturday Night Live for kids. And one of the first episodes Chris Farley was actually on, I think it might have even been the year he died, 97. And Keenan, of course, was on that, and now he's been on SNL for 20 years. But SpongeBob, yeah, that has nothing to do with Peter Bogdanovich, but I think I don't know. From what I grew up with, if you say Nickelodeon, I might think of something else first. A lot of times, the opening song of Pete and Pete, um, "Hey Sandy" by Polaris is the band. That's like the first thing that just shoots in my head. But SpongeBob, I think that's the only. I think it outgrew the Nickelodeon label, So
Now it's just SpongeBob.
yeah.
I mean, he has 2 movies, neither of them directed by Peter Bogdanovich, but what could have happened?
Well, Peter Bogdanovich did direct the first Rugrats movie, so we have that.
Yes, and he did one of the voices too.
He fought with the studio to introduce the new character Dill that was going to be Tommy's brother. He said, "We need a new fucking character here, and they're going to watch Birth of a Nation at the end of this."
And it's all in black and white. It's worth pointing out the Nickelodeon thing, just to close this, because it makes it near impossible to get Bogdanovich's Nickelodeon as the first result on your search online.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like if you
just Google like Nickelodeon movie, it's like Harriet the Spy or the Rugrats movies that we mentioned, Good Burger, shit like that will like pop up. Be like, did you mean this? And the easiest way to search it is Nickelodeon movie 1976. If you put the date in there, and then it'll
see, I did Nickelodeon movie Bogdanovich, and that helped
that works too.
Through. Yeah. That's such a unique, So anyway, if you don't get it at first, like keep trying. Eventually, you'll get something that is not a cartoon for kids or young adults. All right. Next, Scott D'Agostino watched Nickelodeon on April 25th, 2020, gave it 2 stars and said, "I'm still unsure why people in the 70s put Ryan O'Neal in movies."
Man,
it's pretty harsh considering that. I mean, okay, for one, and not to spoil too much of the episode, but I mean, I like him in Nickelodeon, and I really like him in Paper Moon. So I think that the answer, I would say, what's this guy's name? Scott. Scott, have you watched Paper Moon? Because it's a movie from the 70s with Ryan O'Neal being almost the best thing in the movie, and the movie's great. He's only, overshadowed by his own daughter. But it's a great movie. Everybody should watch Paper Moon. And then let's see how you feel about trash talking Ryan O'Neal. I might have said it. We did that episode on Paper Moon, by the way. It's on the Patreon. I might have said it then, but before Paper Moon, the only thing I knew Ryan O'Neal for was this really old, short-lived sitcom that he had with Farrah Fawcett. And yes, if you watch that, then you're like, how did this guy ever lead movies, as a charmer? Because he's kind of sleazy, and the show was not good. So it wasn't a good showcase for his talent or for Farrah Fawcett's, or I guess anybody else involved in it.
Small Sacrifices, is that the name of it?
No, it has something to do with sports. Maybe
looks like that. Oh, that was a made-for-television crime drama film that they were both in. Good Sports.
Good Sports. There you go. Good Sports.
Yeah.
If you do a quick
90s,
search,
my God.
Yeah, if you do a quick search, you can probably find. Actually, I know that at least last time I checked, like all the episodes were on YouTube, and I tried to like watch them, and I gave up pretty quickly. But the intro, remember when TV shows had intros? Yeah, the intro's pretty funny. They're both dancing and flirting. But yeah,
Paul
and then
Feig was in it. There you go.
Who's that?
Directed numerous episodes of The Office. Was kind of
Paul Feig. Okay, I was thinking actor, and now I know who he is. He's in the show as an actor.
That's what it says here. And Paul Feig played Leash in the supporting cast, and then he went on to direct Bridesmaids, which got nominated for multiple Academy Awards. And now his name's in the Ghostbusters franchise, so he can retire.
Point is, I think Ryan O'Neal is great. I don't understand this question. I don't know why somebody would just, even if you don't like Nickelodeon, I know why you would choose him as the scapegoat to just go like, he
Yeah.
sucks. Next, Heretic. Watch this. On March 29th, 2021. Gave it 1.5 stars. Says, Burt Reynolds is great, but Nickelodeon makes the early days of movie making more monotonous than fun. Why was Peter Bogdanovich never able to make another good movie after he dumped Polly Platt? Going for the
Well,
jugular there.
I think we'll probably get into and learn more about that as we go along here in our Bogdanofilms series. I'm not sure if we're in a place to say quite yet. And for the purposes of this specific movie, if you listen to the episode, you'll hear a difference of opinions. And Julio, I'll just say one of us is very complimentary of this, so they do not subscribe to the theory that was just proffered.
Yeah, I am curious. I don't know how widespread this belief would be that Polly Platt was really the brains behind the operation, and that once she left Bogdanovich, because big picture, she left pretty early on his career. So I don't know that you could say it. There is no way. We have several movies to go. There's no way that this is it. That he already bottom out. So it could just be that it's kind of a traumatic event to split from your creative partner / romantic partner, and that could affect the way that you handle movie making. But even then, you're saying that with the assumption that everything he made post Polly Platt just doesn't work, and I don't think that's accurate. But as a dig, it's a pretty good dig. I'm sure P-Bog would just like destroy his glass. I'm gonna close with Doc Shadow. Watch this, September 30th, 2020, and give it 2 stars. It says, the worst thing I've seen associated with the name Nickelodeon since I saw M. Night Shyamalan's adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay, let's not say things that we can't take back.
In the backlog.
Yeah, you can. We did a full episode. Nickelodeon is better than Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I think this guy agrees too.
Yes.
Hence his okay. Let's not say things that we can't take back. And he closes with, an interesting concept during an interesting time period is just delivered in far too much of a slapstick movie for my taste. Alex, slapstick in Nickelodeon. I mean, there's a lot of it. There's a really long fight that is pretty slapsticky.
There's a lot of falling, not like a lot, but more than one occurrence of someone falling through a wall or the floor, or like taking a wrong step on a ceiling and falling through. And it's mentioned in the episode. It's actually by quote Burt Reynolds, name drop Buster Keaton, and in the opening of this movie, Ryan O'Neal does a very Buster Keaton style. Nothing as crazy or death-defying as what Buster would do back in the day, but the homages are very evident in there.
Yeah, I think that there's long stretches of this movie where you could just turn the volume down and just watch the shenanigans happen. And of course, it's shot that way too, with the title cards and everything. So I think that slapstick is fine. Like it can kill a movie or it can make it great. I think that. Could you say that there's too much slapstick? Maybe. I think Bogdanovich thought so, right? In the episode,
I think he got a lot of that out of. I'm sorry. Finish your thought before I go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, in the episode you said that he wanted Nickelodeon to be a little more serious, and in the studio wanted him to just be funnier, and so he was
gonna
not
say
happy
I think
with
he
that
got
mix.
all the slapstick out of his system. What I was going to say before I tripped over my words there is that I think he got all the slapstick out of his system with What's Up, Doc, as we'll be discussing on our Patreon page. Is you want to talk about slapstick, man?
Yes. And I can see how he would be.
Barbra Streisand driving a rickshaw as Ryan O'Neal's like, whoa.
I can see how he was like, all right, well, already did that. I want to do something else. And the studio's like, no, but that made a lot of money. Can you please have more of that in Nickelodeon? And we don't really care about your feelings and like the emotional stuff. For what it's worth, I think that it's very well staged. All the slapstick. Slapstick can get on my nerves. I'm one of those people that can only take so much of it. And Nickelodeon was if there are problems with Nickelodeon, it's not the slapstick, in my opinion. So, I mean, that's fine, Mr. Dog Shadow, but it's better. I guess we all agree that it's better than Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Shyamalan adaptation, and that's all that
Yes,
matters. Yeah. All
that
right.
that will bring us all together.
Yes. I want to know the one person that would disagree. It was like, I'm sorry, no. I think that Ong and his gang were just great, and Ryan O'Neal and Burt Reynolds were just boring. All right, well, Alex, let's move on to the Josh Gad minute before we do trivia. So many characters.
Yes, I think the common logic would prevail in saying he takes the role of Frank because just the
Mm-hmm.
kind of precocious nature of not precocious, naive, a little naive, but more just kind of like too sweet to harm anybody
Yeah.
nature of Frank. But for the historical purposes of this movie, it's an interesting place for John Ritter, and it's an interesting watch for his performance in that. So I was going to go a little bit different with this. I think it would make the H.H. Cobb character even more interesting if Josh Gad was like younger than the people he was talking down to, or the
Uh-huh.
character Cobb was younger than the people he's talking down to. So, and I think Josh Gad could be, his character on Modern Family, but you do that with more of like a bad guy edge to it, because he's a real smartass in that, and real. He pulls off like the humble brag really well in that
Uh-huh.
character, and I think here specifically just thinking of that scene on Christmas when he's like, "Did they laugh? They laughed. All right. Well, Merry Christmas. You're all fired." I
Yeah.
think I could see him, and the monologue he has at the end about like
He
this is the
gets
future
Oscar
feature
quote.
length film.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
like it. I like it.
yeah,
I think that there's no way that we can top that. I agree that we need to keep John Ritter there. Let's just treasure every moment he has, and we'll have more John Ritter coming up on the summer event. He's in at least one more Bogdanov
and of
film that we'll cover.
course, no disrespect to Brian Keith, a very accomplished actor in his own right, but I think we kind of cracked the code of this one here.
Somebody has to make way for the Gad. In this case, it was that guy. Yeah, I like it, and I think that he would fit in also just very well because he, like you said, he has the delivery and he also has the comic timing. So, all right,
Mhm.
Josh Gad, you have inherited an indie movie studio back in the early 1920s. Congratulations. Let's go to trivia.
1910s.
1910s. Are you sure? I don't
Yeah, the
remember.
movie's based in 1914.
You're right. Well, even so.
Because remember, Birth of a Nation came out in 1915, and so that's like the end of the movie. Yeah, so.
Well, that was the first bit of trivia.
Well, there you go. So, elsewhere, December 21st, 1976, we mentioned, or I just mentioned a second ago, there is a scene, a sequence of scenes depicting that it's Christmas time. So, got the Christmas release, and if you want to, like me, you can include it in your Christmas rotation because I believe it does qualify. This upcoming Christmas season, it might come down to Nickelodeon or the Iron Claw for whatever movie I choose to watch for Christmas. But
Why not
a
both?
lot of you got to get lifted by this and then taken way down by the Iron Claw. Directed by Peter Bogdanovich, written by P. Bog along with W.D. Richter. Talk about his writing credits in the episode, which also include Big Trouble in Little China and the 2005 Jessica Biel epic Stealth. We go into it in the episode. There is a fair amount of baggage and history that comes along with this movie. One thing I did specifically forget to mention in the episode, Julio, is the use of hooey in this. Isn't it Burt Reynolds that drums
Yes,
hooey?
yes. I put it on my notes too, but it didn't come up. Yeah, it's Huey Roger. That's Siskel reading Ebert's review of Nickelodeon, and he just goes, "That's Huey Roger."
So I did forget to mention that. And I also forgot to mention that in the opening credits, there was Harry Carey Jr. was billed, and I didn't catch it fast enough that I was like, "What the fuck, Harry Carey Jr." And I didn't check the spelling, and this was the son of Harry Carey, Carey, who was an an actor from the silent film era,
Uh-huh.
and not to be confused with Harry Carey, Caray, the legendary Chicago Cubs announcer, radio man. He's famously parodied by Will Ferrell on Saturday Night Live, taking a tour of Wrigley Field last year. They still call the press box the Harry Carey press box. And Julio, I know you're not, sports is not necessarily your thing, but like Will Ferrell's impression of Harry Carey was kind of like, he took it in like his own direction of just Harry Carey being like kind of like a psychopath, and it was obviously very funny. But Harry Carey as himself was very easy to parody because he was just a man of the people. You can find footage and pictures of him at games calling the game from in the stands with his shirt off and the beer. Like he would sit out there with the people, and Cubs win, Cubs win. It was so I got real excited, and I kept waiting for a guy with like poofy white hair and like a little kid that looked exactly like Harry Carey to show up. And it took me a second to check myself and do my research on that.
Not even Will Ferrell. Nothing.
No. So, as I mentioned in the episode, we detail some of the issues that came along with this, some of the butting of heads between the studio and the filmmakers, specifically Bogdanovich, because W.D. Richter, we have a good quote of him in the episode where he kind of came out the other side of this smelling like roses, where Bogdanovich came out smelling like shit. The whole idea was to capture the era, since obviously the original films were shot in black and white, Bogdanovich said. My cinematographer, Laszlo Kovacs, carefully lit everything to accommodate black and white, which is why the lighting looks so good. We used a lot of techniques of the silent era, irising in and out of scenes. There are no opticals at all in the film, but all the studio wanted was another broad comedy like What's Up, Doc? And I think that's a good teaser there. During filming, Burt Reynolds collapsed on set one day. Doctors could not figure out what was wrong with him, and the film had to be postponed for 2 weeks while he recovered. The film went over schedule and over budget, and Bogdanovich had to forfeit his $500,000. That's called out here on the IMDb trivia section. The film went over schedule and over budget. Peter Bogdanovich had to forfeit $500,000 of his $700,000 fee that he had in his contract. So, man, how bad would that suck? You don't even like the movie, and you lost, what is that, like 75% of your purse?
Yes, but you still made $200,000. So sign me up.
Yes, exactly. We joke about that all the time when these movies bomb. We're like, $50 million is a bomb. It's like, I would like that money, but
yeah, I'm sure it hurt, but didn't he take like a 2-3 year break after this because of how bad it sucked? And I was like, well,
oh yeah,
you can afford to take a 2-3 year break from working when you're making $200,000 in a movie that was not successful. I'm not gonna say Cry Me a River, P-Bog, but I'm also, you're talking about like different levels of of problems.
yeah. I just had a smaller picture in mind, Bogdanovich said. Both Burt Reynolds and Ryan were good in it, and Jane Hitchcock was good, but she didn't have any threat about her. Ryan O'Neal made 2 previous pictures with Bogdanovich, but said Nickelodeon was a, quote, terrible experience, and that Bogdanovich began no longer using writers. Orson Welles quit 1 week before he was set to appear in the film. Bogdanovich rewrote what originally was a tough little script about Hollywood into a farcical series of precious little jokes. I tried to get out of the picture. I told him, Peter, we had a good script, but you changed it. You're locked up there in the house. You've got to get out and regain the gritty edge you showed in Last Picture Show, but he never did. It's pretty damning.
Wow.
Ryan O'Neal's like, he had it and he lost it. He never got it back.
He he could foresee how in the future Letterboxd reviews were going to point at him as a problem with Nickelodeon. It's like, no, it wasn't me. It was P-Bog the entire time. That is, on one hand, I'm like, all right, well, this was his 3rd movie with the guy, so obviously what he's saying carries some weight in the sense that he'd worked with him before, and so he can tell you, look, he changed. But also, it's so weird, just the idea that, again, I don't want to spoil too much of the episode, but I don't think that, whatever Bogdanovich was doing differently from his previous 2 movies, or, and whatever changes happened, like, I don't know that backstory translates to the screen. Like, if you watch the movie, or at least in my case, you watch the movie and it doesn't seem to me like it's a troubled production. Do you remember if it felt like that when
Mm.
you were watching it?
No, but we just recently did Dancer in the Dark also, and it's not like that movie uh, screamed of like this seemed like it was really difficult to make. We don't get me wrong, we have done movies like that
Mm-hmm.
before. Most recently, the new Roadhouse we talked about, where it was like, dude, like whatever Conor McGregor is doing in this does not seem like it was fun to deal with. So that does pop up, and it's always fascinating to me with movies like this and Dancer in the Dark. Dancer in the Dark, of course, for a bit different, more heightened reasons than what we're talking about here. Uh, but when something comes together in like a successful way, and then afterwards you read like it was a nightmare, that's I always have a Ramones story. That's basically end of the century was a nightmare of an album put together, and I think it's fucking great. And then you hear like, oh yeah, it was awful. Everyone was really mad. Marky was drunk the whole time. Phil Spector held him hostage with guns, and so that's kind of what you have here. It's surprising to hear.
Do you think Ryan O'Neal ate a shirt in protest?
I did not eat a shirt. I don't even know that that's possible.
Check out our Dancer in the Dark episode on our Patreon feed.
Burt Reynolds and his stuntman, Hal Needham, had an unhappy experience making the film. They later made the film Hooper, which featured a pretentious film director based on Peter Bogdanovich. I was reading a little bit more about that, and that might have to be one that we add as like a bonus at the end of all this.
He was just acting on it. It's not like Burt Reynolds directed it or wrote it, right?
Hal Needham directed it. I'm sorry, it took me a second to put that together. But yeah, Burt was the lead in it, but the stuntman we mentioned was a director. And it's only from 2 years after the fact, so he must have just picked his brain. And Brian Keith's in that one as well. So, they had all kinds of testimonies to bring to set, I guess.
Sybil Shepherd in it too.
I don't see that. The movie has yet to be released on home video. Peter Bogdanovich has ownership of the movie and has refused to release it. However, it has been available on at least one streaming platform, that being Amazon. And the film was released on DVD by Sony in April of 2009. It was part of a double feature with The Last Picture Show. It is currently out of print. We did come across a little bit of like trying, not issue, but it's not as easy to track down as some others as far as just like immediately being able to find where you can watch this movie. And we did, obviously you can buy it on YouTube and you can rent it elsewhere, but I don't think it's like you can't have a subscription somewhere and watch Nickelodeon. And I know his director's cut has been released, and there are prints of it that still circulate that play at art house theaters from time to time. But I love the idea in this age that we live in that there's still like a director that's like, no, I own this. You don't get to fucking see it.
It's
There's
wild.
movies for like, yeah, there's movies for legal reasons we can't see, like Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. Like I wish that was on Blu-ray, but you just gotta track down your bootleg copies. Homeboy that did May December, what's a Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story. That's another great example of one of those. But this is like a real movie, and Peter Bogdanovich is like, no, throw it in the fire.
I wonder if, because this is certainly his career, and he did so much. I can't believe that he didn't mellow out in that position like later on. He's on the set of The Sopranos, and people are asking him, "It's like, hey, when are you gonna release Nickelodeon on Blu-ray?" And he's like, "Still, no, don't want to talk about it." I mean, it's his right. I think it's wild that he is the one that retained the rights. And I wonder if that means that he had the rights to all the movies before those. Maybe not Last Picture Show, but maybe in between Last Picture Show. Like, at what point did he have so much power that he could just tell the studio, "Nope, this is mine, and I get to decide what happens"? I think that he probably lost that power after Nickelodeon. I mean, if he ever lost it, this would be like probably the inflection point. But I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Texasville, that's the name of the Last Picture Show sequel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that one is harder to find than Nickelodeon. Like that one, you can't rent anywhere. So for that one, you have to buy the Criterion.
You can buy the Criterion for less. Yeah, that was about to say. All right, so bringing this home on I guess it's kind of somber because it involves the passing of Peter Bogdanovich, but and we had like our mixed thoughts on the movie, and we've kind of expressed those kind of throughout this, and just the kind of hellscape it was making this. But to end things on kind of a positive note, after the passing of Peter Bogdanovich, which I believe was in 2022, looks like a bit earlier this year, just about 6 weeks ago, on March 20th of 2024, Turner Classic Movies played the movie in black and white because it's the way Peter Bogdanovich wanted it. So they aired like his director's cut of it, and with the idea of it being this is how he wanted his movie to be seen. And I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, taking 50 years to do it is interesting. That's the thing. This movie comes along with such baggage. Like it's, a lot of people say it's the movie that kind of ruined his career, in addition to his behavior behind the scenes. But
it's one of the things.
I'm a dork I'm a sucker for things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I like it. I think you know what I'm gonna say. It was like I wish that it hadn't taken his death for it to happen. It would have been a lot cooler if they'd done it for like his birthday or something. But at least it got done. So that's cool. And that's I would say timely. I'm not sure. He passed pretty recently, right? Like that's last year?
January of 2022.
Okay, yeah. So it's been a couple of years. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm glad that it got done, and now maybe I wonder what happens to the rights. He passed away, so who controls the fate of Nickelodeon, and would that person
who has the negatives?
Yeah, would that person allow us to have a Blu-ray of it? Would the Criterion collection swoop in to save the day and give us another Bogdanovich Criterion? I mean, that would be great. You can include the black and white and the color, and just make it a whole package. So let us know who holds the rights. Are they up for sale? Can we get them? Can the Contrarians start on the bidding war? We'll see. But that's it. That's it for Nickelodeon. You can listen to the episode. You don't even have to leave YouTube now. If you're watching this on YouTube, our whole podcast feed is there. You can just jump over to the podcast feed from this app, or you can listen to the episode on your podcatcher. But we do a full episode on that. Coming up next, we're going to a PJ party. The second PJ party is another wedding. We're going from Muriel's wedding to my best friend's wedding. PJ Hogan Goes Hollywood. It's very likely that most of you have seen that, as opposed to how many of you have seen Nickelodeon. So this might be a slightly more popular episode, and it's fresh, so we'll be saying not so nice things at first, and then we'll tell you how we really feel. So watch My Best Friend's Wedding, watch Nickelodeon, listen to the episodes, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Peace.